My son asked me how I was enjoying the lake house he bought me. I said, "What lake house?" His wife went white as a sheet. If you think you know where this story is going, trust me, you don't. What started as a simple Thanksgiving dinner became the moment I discovered my daughter-in-law had stolen my entire life. $70,000. My identity. Even the home my son thought I was living in. And I had no idea until that one question shattered everything. Stay with me until the end of this story, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far my story travels. The kitchen timer went off at exactly 2:47 p.m., and I pulled the turkey from the oven with shaking hands that had nothing to do with the weight of the roasting pan. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 63 years old, and I'd been dreading this Thanksgiving dinner for 2 weeks straight. Not because I didn't want to see my son. Ryan was the only family I had left after my husband Daniel passed 4 years ago. But these holiday visits had become complicated, strained, like we were actors reading lines neither of us believed anymore. The apartment around me was small, just 600 square feet of worn linoleum and walls so thin I could hear Mrs. Patterson's television through the bedroom wall every night. The stove was temperamental, the refrigerator hummed loud enough to keep me awake. But it was mine, paid for with money I earned scrubbing floors at the Riverside office complex 5 nights a week. I smoothed down my best dress, the navy blue one I'd worn to Daniel's funeral and every important occasion since, and checked my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me was tired. Deep lines around her eyes. Gray hair pulled into a practical bun because I couldn't afford regular salon visits anymore. Hands red and rough from industrial cleaning chemicals. When had I gotten so old? The knock came at 3:15 p.m. I took a breath, put on my brightest smile, and opened the door. "Mom!" Ryan stood there in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 2 months of my rent. At 38, he'd grown into the kind of success his father and I had always dreamed for him. Chief Financial Officer at Henderson Global Industries. 6-figure salary. Maybe 7 figures now. I'd stopped asking because the numbers just made the distance between our lives feel wider. Behind him stood Vanessa. My daughter-in-law was elegant in the way that money makes possible. Perfect blonde highlights, designer dress, jewelry that caught the hallway light. She smiled at me with those impossibly white teeth, leaning in for a hug that smelled like expensive perfume. "Evelyn, happy Thanksgiving," she said warmly. "Something smells absolutely divine." "Just turkey and the usual fixings," I said, stepping back to let them in. "Nothing fancy." I watched Vanessa's eyes do a quick sweep of my small apartment, the secondhand furniture, the patched sofa cushion, the cheap curtains. But her smile never wavered. She was good at that. Polished. I'd always felt slightly inadequate around her, like a rough draft next to a published novel. "Mom, you shouldn't have gone to so much trouble," Ryan said, but he was already moving toward the kitchen, drawn by the smell of roasted turkey and sage stuffing. "It's no trouble. It's Thanksgiving." That was a lie. It had cost me nearly $40 I couldn't really afford, a full evening's wages after taxes. I'd skipped my blood pressure medication refill last week to cover it, telling myself I'd pick it up next paycheck. The mild headaches were manageable. My son's visit mattered more. We settled around my small dining table, the same one Daniel and I had bought at a garage sale 27 years ago. I'd set it as nicely as I could with mismatched plates and the cloth napkins I'd ironed that morning before my shift. "This looks wonderful, Mom," Ryan said, and I heard genuine appreciation in his voice. That gave me a little spark of warmth. Vanessa poured wine into the glasses I'd borrowed from Mrs. Patterson. I didn't own proper wine glasses myself. "You've really outdone yourself, Evelyn." We ate. We made small talk. Ryan told me about a major acquisition Henderson Global was planning. Vanessa mentioned something about a charity gala. I talked about Mrs. Patterson's new cat, then felt embarrassed because that was genuinely the most interesting thing happening in my life. The conversation had that careful quality it always did now, like we were all dancing around subjects nobody wanted to name. The fact that Ryan rarely visited. The way months could pass between his phone calls. How I'd become someone he checked on out of obligation rather than desire. I'd raised him alone after Daniel died when Ryan was just 19. Worked 2 jobs to get him through college. Sold our house to help with his graduate school tuition because I believed in him, believed in his future. He'd promised to take care of me someday, to make sure all those sacrifices meant something. and he had succeeded. Beyond anything Daniel or I had imagined. So why did I feel so alone? Mom, I need to ask you something, Ryan said suddenly, setting down his fork. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. Vanessa's hand moved to touch his arm, a quick gesture that seemed almost warning. What is it, honey? He looked at me with genuine concern in his eyes. Are you doing okay? Financially, I mean. You know you can always tell me if you need anything. My cheeks burned. I'm fine, Ryan. I manage. Because I worry about you in this place. It's not... He gestured around vaguely. You shouldn't be working so hard at your age. That's why I wanted to make sure the house was working out. I froze. The house? The lake house. He smiled. I know you like to be independent, but you've been there almost 2 years now. I just want to make sure everything's good with it. The property management company I hired, are they responsive when you need anything? The room tilted slightly. My hands gripped the edge of the table. Ryan, what lake house? His smile faltered. The one in Clearwater Ridge, the 3-bedroom with the view of Lake Harmony? Mom, I bought it for you in January 2 years ago. We've been through this. No. My voice came out strange, distant. No, I've never received any house. I live here. I've lived in this apartment for 6 years since I sold the family home. Ryan's face went pale. He turned slowly to look at Vanessa, and that's when I saw it, just for a split second before she composed herself. Vanessa's expression cracked. Pure panic flooded her eyes, her face going white as paper. Her hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. That's impossible, Ryan said slowly. I purchased that property. I have all the paperwork. The deed is in your name, Mom. Your name. I never signed anything. But you did. I have your signature on the documents. The apartment felt too small suddenly, the air too thick. My heart hammered against my ribs, that irregular rhythm that had been worrying me lately, the one I couldn't afford to have checked out properly. Ryan, I promise you I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen any lake house. I've never signed any deed. Vanessa stood abruptly, her chair scraping harsh against the floor. I think there must be some confusion. Maybe the paperwork got mixed up. These things happen with real estate. Vanessa! Ryan's voice was sharp, controlled. The CFO voice he probably used in boardrooms. Sit down. She sat. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving fast across the screen. I'm looking at the bank records right now. The purchase was $340,000. January 15th, 2 years ago. He scrolled. And the monthly support payments. I've been sending you $3,000 every month since then, Mom. For property taxes, maintenance, living expenses. $3,000 every month for 2 years. I couldn't breathe. I've never received any money, Ryan. The payments go to an account in your name, account number ending in 7734. I don't have an account ending in those numbers. My checking account ends in 2891, the same one I've had for 15 years. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Ryan's face had gone from pale to red. He stood up slowly, his eyes locked on Vanessa like he was seeing her for the first time. Vanessa, where's the money going? There must be an explanation. Where's the money going? I'd never heard my son yell like that. Vanessa flinched. I can explain, she whispered. Tears started forming in her eyes, perfect, delicate tears that made her look vulnerable and beautiful even now. Ryan, please, you have to understand. Understand what? That my mother has been living in this... He gestured around my tiny apartment, his hand shaking. While I thought she was comfortable, safe, while I've been sending thousands of dollars every month that she's never seen. My family needed help. The words came out in a rush, desperate, and then she stopped, clapped a hand over her mouth like she could pull them back. But it was too late. Your family, Ryan repeated slowly. Your family needed help. I watched this scene unfold like I was underwater. Everything moved too slow and too fast at the same time. My son's face cycling through emotions, shock, betrayal, rage, his wife crying, reaching for him, and me, sitting at my garage sale table in my funeral dress, trying to understand what was happening. I was going to tell you, Vanessa sobbed. I swear I was going to pay it back. It was just supposed to be temporary. How much? Ryan's voice was cold now, deadly calm. How much of the money meant for my mother have you stolen? Stolen? The word hung in the air like poison. Ryan, please don't call it that. How much? I don't know exactly. Maybe 70,000? I'd have to check. You'd have to check, he repeated tonelessly. You'd have to check how much money you embezzled from my mother. I found my voice finally. It came out small, confused. But how? I don't understand how this is possible. Ryan turned to me and I saw his eyes were wet. Mom, I need to see your identification, your social security card, any financial documents you have. I got them with numb hands, my purse from the closet, the small fireproof box where I kept important papers. Ryan spread everything on the table, his phone in hand, comparing. His face grew darker with each document he examined. She forged your signature, he said finally. On the deed, on the bank account documents. Mom, she's opened accounts in your name, taken out credit cards. He scrolled frantically through his phone. There are tax returns filed with your social security number that you never authorized. Loans. She's been committing identity theft. Identity theft. The words felt foreign, impossible. This was Vanessa, my daughter-in-law. The woman who'd married my son 5 years ago in a ceremony that cost more than I'd earned in a decade. Who always smiled at me, hugged me, called me on Mother's Day. I think I'm going to be sick, I whispered. Vanessa was crying harder now, mascara running down her perfect face. I'm so sorry, Evelyn. I'm so sorry. You have to believe me. I never meant for it to go this far. It started small, just a little help for my mom when she lost her job. And then my brother needed money for his kids' medical bills. And then, stop talking, Ryan said. Just stop. He turned to me, kneeling beside my chair. His hand took mine, those work-roughened hands that had scrubbed floors to give him opportunities. Mom, why didn't you tell me you were struggling? You have your own life, I said. The words came automatically. I didn't want to be a burden. A burden? Mom, his voice broke. Do you know what I've been thinking these past 2 years? I thought you were comfortable, happy, living in that beautiful house by the lake. I felt good about it, like I'd finally paid you back for everything you sacrificed for me. I wanted you to feel good, I said softly. You worked so hard, Ryan. You deserve your success, your life, not at the expense of yours. He looked back at Vanessa with such cold hatred that she shrank in her chair. Where's the house? The one I bought. Who's living in it? Vanessa didn't answer. Answer me. My mother, she whispered. And my brother's family. They moved in right after the purchase. The room spun. Ryan stood, walked to the window, pressed his forehead against the glass. His shoulders shook. I think he was crying but trying to hide it. My mother-in-law is living in the house I bought for my actual mother, he said to the window. Using money I thought was supporting the woman who raised me alone, who sold her house for my education, who worked herself to the bone so I could have chances she never had. Ryan, please. He whirled around. Get out. What? Get out of this apartment, now. Vanessa stood, grabbing her purse, her coat. She looked at me, her face a mess of tears and running makeup. Evelyn, please, you have to understand. I don't have to understand anything, I heard myself say. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. You stole from me. You forged my name. You let me think my son had forgotten about me while you were spending his money on your own family. I never meant... Leave, Ryan said. Go back to our house. Pack a bag. I don't want to see you when I get home. She left, stumbling in her expensive heels, still crying. The door closed behind her. Ryan and I sat in silence for a long moment. The turkey was getting cold on the table. The apartment felt even smaller than usual. Mom, he said finally. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me things were hard? You stopped calling, I said simply. Months would go by. You were always busy. And Vanessa would tell me how stressed you were, how demanding your job was. She said you asked her to check on me so you wouldn't have to worry. His face crumbled. She told me the same thing, that you were fine, happy, that she visited you regularly at the lake house. I haven't seen her more than twice a year, always at restaurants, never anywhere I could question the details. She's been lying to both of us. He put his head in his hands. 2 years. For 2 years, I thought I was taking care of you. I felt good about myself. And you've been here, struggling, probably thinking I'd abandoned you. I thought you'd moved on, I admitted. Built a new life that didn't have room for your old mother. Never. He looked up, tears on his face. Mom, I swear to you, never. I thought about you constantly. I just believed what she told me, that you were happy and comfortable. I need my medication refill, I said suddenly. The non sequitur confused him. My blood pressure pills. I skipped them this month to afford this dinner. Ryan made a sound like something broke inside him. The other night I worked until 2 a.m. cleaning executive offices, I continued. My own voice sounded strange to me, distant. My knees hurt so bad I could barely stand. I eat pasta and canned soup most nights because it's cheap. Last winter my heat broke and I wore 3 sweaters to bed for 2 weeks before the landlord fixed it because I couldn't afford to push him too hard. I was afraid he'd raise my rent. Stop, Ryan whispered. Please, stop. You asked why I didn't tell you, because I didn't think you wanted to know. I thought the life I gave you had taken you somewhere I couldn't follow. He crossed to me, knelt again, took both my hands. I'm going to fix this. All of it. I promise you, Mom. I'm going to fix everything. I don't want your money, I said. I just wanted my son. You have me, he said fiercely. You've always had me. I'm so sorry I let you think otherwise. We sat like that for a while. The Thanksgiving dinner grew cold between us. Outside, the November sky darkened toward evening. Finally, Ryan pulled out his phone. I need to make some calls, first to my lawyer, then to the police. The police? Mom, this is fraud, identity theft. This isn't just a family matter. She's committed serious crimes. The word crimes felt too big for my small apartment. She's your wife. She stole from you, from us. His jaw set hard. And I'm going to make sure she faces consequences. He stood pacing as he dialed. I heard fragments of his conversation. Identity theft, forged signatures, misappropriated funds. I looked at the cold turkey, the untouched stuffing. Thought about how excited I'd been this morning, how carefully I'd planned this meal, how I'd hoped maybe this year would be different, that somehow the distance between us would shrink. I'd gotten my wish in the worst possible way. Ryan was on his 3rd phone call when the reality truly hit me. Somewhere out there was a house that should have been mine. A view of Lake Harmony I'd never seen. Rooms I'd never walked through. $70,000 that could have changed everything about my life these past 2 years. Paid for medication, real food, heat, maybe even retirement from the night shift that was destroying my body inch by inch. And Vanessa's family had lived in it all, used it all, while I scrubbed floors and skipped meals and felt forgotten. The anger came then, hot and fierce and absolutely useless, because what could I do? I was a 63-year-old janitor who could barely afford rent. Vanessa had money, lawyers probably, resources I couldn't imagine. Mom? Ryan had finished his calls. He sat across from me again. I know this is overwhelming, but we're going to handle this step by step. What if you can't prove it? I asked. What if she's covered her tracks? She hasn't. I've already found irregularities in the paperwork. The signatures don't match, and she just confessed to both of us. I recorded it on my phone. You recorded? The minute she said her family needed help, I started recording. It's all there. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt exhausted, bone-deep tired in a way that had nothing to do with my night shifts. My lawyer's coming here tomorrow, Ryan continued. We're going to go through everything, every document, every account. We'll figure out exactly what she's done and start untangling it. Tomorrow's the day after Thanksgiving, I said absurdly. He owes me favors. He'll be here. Ryan stayed until midnight. We didn't eat the dinner. Instead, we went through my financial papers, made lists, tried to construct a timeline of when things had happened. Each discovery was another small wound, a credit card I'd never opened, a loan application I'd never filed, withdrawals from accounts I didn't know existed. When he finally left, promising to return first thing in the morning, I sat alone in my quiet apartment. Mrs. Patterson's TV hummed through the wall. The refrigerator rattled. Outside, someone's car alarm went off, then stopped. I thought about Vanessa's face when Ryan asked about the lake house. That split second of pure panic before the mask came down. Had she practiced that mask? How many times had she smiled at me while planning her lies? I thought about my son, believing he'd secured my future while I scraped by on janitor wages. I thought about that house by Lake Harmony. 3 bedrooms, Ryan had said. A view of the water. Property managers taking care of it with money meant for me. Someone else's mother watching sunrises I should have seen. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's face, or Ryan's broken expression, or my own reflection in the bathroom mirror, old, tired, used. Around 4 a.m., I got up and cleaned my apartment, scrubbed the counters, mopped the floor, organized the closet. The physical work helped, even though my knees screamed protest. I'd built a life around work, around keeping moving, around not asking for help. And look where that had gotten me. Dawn came gray and cold through my thin curtains. I made instant coffee, the cheap kind that tasted like cardboard but cost half as much as the real thing. Sat at my garage sale table surrounded by papers we'd sorted last night. Somewhere, Vanessa was waking up. Probably in the house she shared with my son. A house I'd never seen, but that certainly didn't have thin walls or a temperamental stove. Was she scared? Sorry? Already planning her defense? And her family in my lake house? Did they know what she'd done? Or had she fed them some story, made herself the hero helping her struggling family? The knock came at 7 a.m. Ryan, looking like he hadn't slept either. Behind him stood a tall man in an expensive suit, the lawyer, I assumed. "Mom, this is Marcus Chen. He's going to help us." Marcus shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Carter, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances, but I want you to know we're going to sort this out." They set up camp at my tiny table. Laptops, documents, legal pads. Marcus asked me questions, gentle but thorough. "When did you last see Vanessa? Did she ever ask you to sign anything? Did you notice any unusual mail?" I answered as best I could, but the truth was, I'd been so wrapped up in just surviving, working, sleeping, working again, that I hadn't noticed much of anything. "The good news," Marcus said after 2 hours of document review, "is that the fraud is extensive enough to be obvious. She wasn't subtle. Multiple accounts opened on the same day, signatures that don't match your actual signature, IP addresses tracking back to her location." "Can she go to prison for this?" I asked. Marcus and Ryan exchanged glances. "Potentially," Marcus said carefully. "Identity theft and financial fraud at this level are serious felonies, but prosecution is up to you. You're the victim. And there's also the question of restitution versus incarceration." "I don't understand." "Sometimes in cases like this, if the perpetrator has means, it's possible to negotiate full restitution, returning all stolen funds, in exchange for reduced charges or a plea deal. It's faster than going to trial, and you'd see your money back sooner." Ryan's face was stone. "She should face full consequences." "That's not my decision to make," I said quietly. "It's Evelyn's." They both looked at me. I didn't know what I wanted. Revenge? Justice? Or just to have this whole nightmare end? "I need to see it," I said suddenly. "The house. I need to see the house she stole." Ryan hesitated. "Mom, I don't think that's a good idea right now." "I need to see it," I repeated, stronger. "I need to see what my life should have been." So we drove to Clearwater Ridge. The journey took an hour through November countryside going bare for winter. Marcus followed in his own car. Nobody talked much. I watched the landscape change from city blocks to suburbs to rural roads to, finally, the shores of Lake Harmony. It was beautiful. The lake spread out gray-blue under cloudy skies, trees reflected in still water, houses dotted the shoreline. Not mansions exactly, but comfortable, well-maintained homes with big windows facing the view. Ryan's GPS directed us down a winding road to 847 Lakeview Drive. My breath caught. The house was perfect. Not huge, but lovely. Wood siding painted sage green, a front porch with rocking chairs, flower boxes that would bloom in spring. Large windows facing the water, a dock extending into the lake. Everything neat, cared for, peaceful. Everything I'd dreamed about in my exhausted moments on the night shift. "That's it," Ryan said quietly. "That's the house I bought for you." A car sat in the driveway, a new SUV. Lights glowed in the windows. Someone was home. Someone who wasn't me. I got out slowly, my legs stiff from the drive, walked up the front path like I was approaching something holy and forbidden at the same time. Before we reached the porch, the front door opened. A woman stood there, mid-50s, comfortable in expensive loungewear, coffee cup in hand. Behind her, I could see a man and two kids, a glimpse of a beautiful interior. Vanessa's mother. Had to be. She had the same bone structure, the same carefully maintained appearance. She frowned at us. "Can I help you?" Ryan stepped forward. "I'm Ryan Carter. I own this property. And this is my mother, Evelyn Carter, whose name is on the deed." The woman's face went carefully blank. "I don't know what you're talking about. Vanessa arranged for us to rent this place." "Vanessa doesn't own this house," Ryan said, his voice hard. "She committed fraud to put her family here using money meant for my mother's care." "That's ridiculous." "It's documented," Marcus said smoothly, stepping up with his lawyer voice. "We have all the paperwork. This property was purchased for Mrs. Carter, paid for by her son, and illegally occupied by your family through identity theft and financial fraud." The woman's coffee cup shook slightly. Vanessa confessed yesterday," Ryan said. "The police are involved, so I'm going to need you and your family to vacate this property. Today." "Today? That's impossible. We have nowhere to go." "That's not my problem," Ryan said flatly. "You've been living in my mother's house, using my mother's money, while she worked night shifts as a janitor at 63 years old. You need to leave." I should have felt satisfied, vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. I walked past the arguing adults, up the porch steps, through the front door they'd left open. The interior was beautiful. Hardwood floors, a stone fireplace, comfortable furniture. Not fancy, but nice. Real nice. The kind of furniture people buy when they have money for things that last. Through the windows, the lake stretched out peaceful and endless. In the kitchen, a Thanksgiving leftover sat on the counter, turkey, stuffing, all the things I'd cooked yesterday, but so much more abundant. They'd had a feast while I'd served my cold dinner to a son who discovered his mother's stolen life. I walked through the bedrooms. 3 of them, like Ryan had said. One clearly for Vanessa's mother. One for her brother's family, kids' toys scattered around. One set up as a guest room, bed neatly made with expensive linens. A guest room in my house that I'd never been invited to stay in. In the master bedroom, I stood at the window looking out at the lake. Dawn would be beautiful here. Evening, too. All the mornings and evenings I'd missed, waking to Mrs. Patterson's TV and city noise instead of water and peace. This was supposed to be my retirement, my reward for decades of hard work and sacrifice. My son's gift to show my struggles had meant something, and someone else had lived it instead. I didn't realize I was crying until Ryan appeared beside me, his hand on my shoulder. "We're going to fix this," he said. "I promise, Mom. We're going to fix all of it." I turned to look at him, this man I'd raised alone, who'd grown so far beyond anything I'd imagined, who'd tried to take care of me and been deceived. "I know," I said, but standing in that beautiful house by the lake, I understood something. Even if they returned every dollar, restored my credit, prosecuted Vanessa to the full extent of the law, none of it would give me back the 2 years I'd lost. The mornings I could have spent watching the sunrise instead of mopping floors. The peace I could have felt instead of constant worry about rent and medicine. Those years were gone, stolen as surely as the money, and I would never get them back. Outside, Marcus was still talking with Vanessa's family. Their voices rose in argument, fell to negotiation. The kids were crying now, scared by the adults' tension, not understanding that their comfortable life had been built on their aunt's lies. Ryan's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face growing darker. "That was the detective," he said when he hung up. "Vanessa's at the police station now with her own lawyer. She's trying to claim it was a misunderstanding, that she had my permission to use the money for family needs." "Did you give her permission?" "Never. Not once." He looked at me with anguish in his eyes. "Mom, I thought you had everything. Why would I authorize money for her family when I believed you were already taken care of?" The answer was obvious, because Vanessa had lied to him too. Built a whole architecture of deception that fooled everyone. How long had she planned this? Or had it been opportunistic, seeing a chance and taking it, then taking more, until she was in too deep to stop? I'd probably never know. What I did know was this. My small apartment was waiting back in the city. My night shift started again tomorrow. And even if they could fix the legal issues, restore what was stolen, prosecute the crimes, My life had been changed in ways that went far deeper than money. I'd learned that the family you build can betray you, that kindness can be weakness, that the people who smile brightest sometimes hide the darkest intentions. And I'd learned that my son, my Ryan, who I'd worried had forgotten me, had been trying to care for me all along. That distance hadn't been abandonment, but deception. That love had been there, just hidden under layers of someone else's lies. Standing in the house that should have been mine, looking out at water I'd never swum in, I felt the full weight of what had been stolen. Not just money, not just shelter, but time, peace, the feeling of being valued and remembered. Those things, I understood now, you can't put a price on. And once they're gone, no amount of restitution can bring them back. The drive back to the city felt longer than the drive out. I sat in Ryan's passenger seat watching the lake disappear behind us, replaced by bare trees and gray November sky. Marcus had stayed behind to handle the eviction paperwork and coordinate with the property management company. Vanessa's mother had screamed at us from the porch as we left. Something about how we were heartless, how her family had nowhere to go. I'd wanted to scream back, "And where did you think I was living?" But I didn't. I just got in the car. Ryan's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He hadn't said a word since we'd pulled out of the driveway. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable, until finally I couldn't stand it anymore. "Say what you're thinking," I told him. "I'm thinking about how many times I almost visited you there," he said, his voice tight. "At the lake house. How Vanessa would always have some reason why that weekend didn't work. Your schedule, or construction happening on the property, or you'd gone on a trip with friends." He laughed bitterly. "What friends? You've been working night shifts and living alone in that apartment. You don't have time for friends." "I have Mrs. Patterson," I offered weakly. "Your neighbor who you hear through the wall. That's not the same thing, Mom." He was right, of course, but admitting how small my life had become felt like admitting defeat. "She told me you liked your privacy," Ryan continued. "That surprise visits made you anxious. That you'd specifically asked her to coordinate any family time so you could prepare properly." His voice cracked. And I believed her, every word, because I wanted to believe I'd done the right thing, that I'd taken care of you the way Dad would have wanted. "This isn't your fault," I said. "Isn't it? I married her. I trusted her. I gave her access to everything, my accounts, my finances, my family." He shook his head. "I was so busy congratulating myself for being a good son that I never actually checked if you were okay." The words hit harder because they were partially true. But I couldn't let him carry all that guilt. "I'm the one who didn't tell you I was struggling," I said. "You called on my birthday and Christmas. I could have said something then, and you didn't because she'd spent 2 years convincing you I was too busy to care." We fell silent again. The highway stretched ahead, gray and endless. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "Family removing belongings now. Should be cleared out by evening. We'll secure property and change locks." "They're leaving today," I told Ryan. "Good." His jaw clenched. They've had 2 years in a house that wasn't theirs. They can figure out their next move on their own time. I tried to imagine where they'd go. Vanessa's mother, her brother, those 2 kids, a hotel maybe, another family member's house. Then I stopped myself. That wasn't my problem. They'd benefited from stolen money and a stolen house. Whatever happened next, they'd brought on themselves. Or had they? Maybe they genuinely believed Vanessa's story, whatever she'd told them. Maybe they were victims too, in a way. No. I couldn't think like that. Couldn't make excuses for people who'd lived comfortably while I'd worked myself sick. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we document everything, build the case, figure out exactly what she's taken and how to get it back." Ryan glanced at me. "Marcus thinks we have enough evidence for criminal charges, multiple felonies, but he says you'd be the one pressing charges since you're the primary victim. And if I don't, then it becomes a civil matter. We'd sue for restitution, but she wouldn't face jail time." I didn't know which I wanted. The thought of Vanessa in prison felt both satisfying and terrible. She'd destroyed my peace, stolen years of my life, but she was still the woman my son had loved, had married. Putting her behind bars would hurt Ryan too. "You don't have to decide now," Ryan said, reading my hesitation. "Let's just focus on getting the full picture first." We got back to my apartment around 2 in the afternoon. The place felt smaller than ever after seeing the lake house. The worn furniture looked even shabbier. The thin walls seemed to close in. Ryan stood in the middle of my tiny living room, looking around like he was really seeing it for the first time. How long has the couch been ripped like that? 3 years. I patched it with duct tape. And the stove? Only the back burners work, but that's fine. I don't cook much anyway. He closed his eyes like the words physically hurt him. Mom, it's fine, Ryan. I've managed. Managing isn't living. He pulled out his phone. I'm getting you a hotel room. Tonight. Somewhere comfortable while we sort this out. I can't afford... I'm paying. Obviously. He was already typing. The Riverside Hotel downtown. They have long-term suites. You're staying there until we get the lake house situation resolved. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. He looked at me hard. Please, let me do this. I need to do something that actually helps you, not just makes me feel better about myself. I wanted to argue, but the exhaustion of the last 24 hours crashed over me all at once. The thought of staying in a hotel, a real hotel with clean sheets and working heat and no noise through the walls, sounded like heaven. Okay, I whispered. Okay. He kept typing. I'm booking it for a month. We'll extend if needed. A month? However long it takes. He hit send, then looked at me. Pack a bag, whatever you need. We'll get you settled, then tomorrow we start going through everything with Marcus. I packed quickly. My best clothes, which weren't much. Toiletries. My medications, including the blood pressure pills I hadn't refilled. When Ryan saw the empty prescription bottle, his face darkened. We're stopping at a pharmacy on the way, he said. Not a question. At the CVS near the hotel, Ryan filled not just my blood pressure medication, but everything else I'd been skipping or rationing, cholesterol pills, arthritis medication for my knees, even daily vitamins. This is too much, I protested as the pharmacist rang up over $300 worth of prescriptions. This is necessary. Ryan handed over his credit card without blinking. When was your last real doctor's appointment? I had a checkup 8 months ago. And the doctor wanted me to see a cardiologist about my irregular heartbeat, but I couldn't afford the specialist copay. Ryan's hand stilled on the pharmacy counter. What irregular heartbeat? It's probably nothing. I just get dizzy sometimes and my heart races. You're seeing a cardiologist. His voice left no room for argument. I'm making the appointment tomorrow. Ryan. Mom, stop. Just stop trying to be fine with everything. You're not fine. Your heart is doing something it shouldn't, and we're getting it checked out. End of discussion. The pharmacist handed over the bag of medications with a sympathetic look. She'd probably heard everything. The Riverside Hotel was beautiful. Not fancy luxury beautiful, but clean and comfortable in a way my apartment hadn't been in years. The suite had a separate bedroom, a small kitchen area, and a bathroom with water pressure that actually worked. Ryan helped me bring my bags up, then hesitated at the door. I should go home, deal with Vanessa. What are you going to say to her? I don't know yet. He looked exhausted. Part of me wants to scream. Part of me just wants to understand why. Will you be safe? I asked suddenly. If she's desperate. She's not violent, Mom. She's a liar and a thief, but she wouldn't hurt me physically. I wasn't so sure. Desperate people do desperate things. But Ryan was a grown man, and I couldn't protect him from everything. He hugged me before he left. A real hug, tight and long. The kind we used to share before life got complicated. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I let you down. You didn't let me down, I said into his shoulder. You were lied to. There's a difference. But as he left and I stood alone in the quiet hotel room, I wondered if that was really true. Yes, Vanessa had lied. But Ryan had also been so wrapped up in his successful life that those lies had been easy to believe. He'd wanted to think he'd solved the problem of his aging mother, and so he'd accepted the comfortable story Vanessa fed him. I couldn't entirely blame him. I'd wanted to believe my son had his own full life too. We'd both been complicit in the distance between us, even if neither of us had known the full truth. My phone rang around 7 that evening, Ryan's number. She's gone, he said without preamble. Vanessa. She cleared out her stuff and left. Left where? I don't know. Her lawyer, maybe? Her parents' place? Except they're currently being evicted from your lake house, so probably not there. He sounded drained. She left a note. What did it say? I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt anyone. I'll make this right. He laughed bitterly. Like, there's any way to make this right. Did Marcus say what happens next? Police want to interview you tomorrow. Get your official statement. Then they'll formally charge her with identity theft, fraud, and embezzlement. He paused. Marcus asked again whether you want to pursue criminal charges or just civil restitution. The question hung between us through the phone line. Can I think about it? Of course. But Mom, you should know. If we only go civil, she could drag this out for years. Declare bankruptcy, hide assets. You might never see that money back. And if we go criminal? She'd face prison time. Probably 3 to 5 years for what she's done. But the restitution would be court-ordered as part of her sentence. You'd have a better chance of actually recovering the funds. 3 to 5 years. Vanessa in prison. Her perfect life destroyed the way she'd tried to destroy mine. I need to sleep on it, I said. That's fair, Ryan sighed. I should sleep too. But I keep thinking about all the times she looked me in the eye and lied. How good she was at it. How I never suspected a thing. That's what skilled liars do, I said. They make you doubt yourself instead of them. Did you ever suspect? Even a little? I thought about it. No, I just thought she was polite and distant, the way daughter-in-laws sometimes are with their husbands' mothers. I never imagined, I trailed off, that she was stealing your identity and your money. Right. We said goodnight. I took a long shower in the hotel bathroom, using the little bottles of shampoo and conditioner that smelled expensive and worked better than anything I owned. Put on clean pajamas, took all my medications, the full doses I'd been skipping to make them last. The bed was soft, really soft. I sank into it and almost cried at how comfortable it was after years of my cheap mattress with its broken springs. But I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing through everything. The lake house, Vanessa's face when Ryan confronted her, the kids crying as their family was evicted, my son's broken voice saying he'd failed me. Around midnight, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Carter, this is Vanessa. Please don't delete this. I know you have every right to hate me. I just need you to know I'm sorry. I never wanted it to go this far. It started so small and then I couldn't stop. I'm going to pay back everything, I promise. Please don't send me to prison, please. I stared at the message for a long time, thought about responding, thought about what I could possibly say. Finally, I typed, "You stole 2 years of my life. Money can't give that back." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The 3 dots appeared immediately, showing she was typing, then stopped, started again, stopped. Finally, I know. I'm so sorry. I turned off my phone. The next morning, Ryan picked me up at 9 for the police station interview. I'd barely slept and my hands shook as I drank the hotel coffee. Real coffee, not instant. It tasted good but sat heavy in my nervous stomach. Detective Sarah Morrison was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with tired eyes that had probably seen too much. She led us into a small interview room and recorded everything as I told my story. The Thanksgiving dinner, Ryan's question about the lake house, Vanessa's confession, all of it. And you had no knowledge of any of these accounts or transactions? Detective Morrison asked. None. I've never seen any of the paperwork Ryan showed me. She pulled out a folder. These are copies of documents with your forged signature. Can you confirm these aren't your actual signatures? I looked through them. Deed transfers, bank account applications, loan documents, tax returns. The signatures looked sort of like mine, same basic shape, but wrong. Too smooth, too perfect. My real signature was shakier now, my hands not as steady as they used to be. Those aren't mine, I said. Did you ever give Vanessa Blake permission to sign documents on your behalf? Never. Did you ever give her access to your personal information? Social security number, birth certificate, financial records? No, I mean, she might have seen my social security card at some point. It was in my purse sometimes during family visits, but I never authorized her to use it. Detective Morrison made notes. Mrs. Carter, I want to be direct with you. This is one of the more clear-cut cases of identity theft and fraud I've seen. The evidence is substantial. If you choose to press charges, I'm confident we can prosecute successfully. And if she confesses? Ryan asked. She's already admitted guilt to us. Then we'd likely negotiate a plea deal. Reduce sentence in exchange for full confession and agreement to pay restitution. She'd still serve time, but probably less than if we went to trial. I twisted my hands in my lap. How much time? Depends on the deal, but realistically, 2 to 4 years with possibility of parole. 2 to 4 years of Vanessa's life. Gone. Because of choices she made, yes. But still. What if I don't press charges? I asked. Then it becomes a civil matter between you and her. You could sue for damages, but there are no criminal penalties. She'd be free to potentially do this to someone else down the line. That thought hadn't occurred to me. If Vanessa faced no real consequences, what would stop her from finding another victim? Another trusting family member or friend to steal from? Can I have one more day to think about it? I asked. Of course. But, Mrs. Carter? Detective Morrison's voice was gentle. In my experience, people who commit fraud at this level don't stop unless they're forced to. They tell themselves it's temporary, that they'll pay it back, that it's not really hurting anyone. But it is hurting someone. It hurt you. We left the police station around noon. Ryan was quiet as we walked to his car. I think you should press charges, he said finally. Not because I want revenge, but because she needs to face real consequences, and you deserve justice. She's still your wife, I pointed out. She's filed for divorce, actually. Her lawyer sent papers this morning. He pulled them from his briefcase, his hands shaking slightly. She's trying to get ahead of it, separate herself legally before the criminal charges hit. I took the papers. Standard divorce filing, citing irreconcilable differences. How clinical, how neat. As if what she'd done could be summed up in legal language. How do you feel about that? I asked. Honestly, relieved. I can't even look at her without feeling sick. He started the car. 5 years, we were married 5 years, and apparently I never really knew her at all. People hide things, I said, even from the people who love them. Did you? Hide things from Dad? The question surprised me. Sometimes, small things. When money was tight and I didn't want him to worry. When I was scared about something but didn't want to burden him. So maybe I'm just like you. He pulled out of the parking lot, wanting to protect the people I love from hard truths. Maybe. But there's a difference between protecting someone and enabling someone to hurt you. We drove to Marcus's office for the afternoon session. He'd spent the morning assembling a complete financial picture, and what he showed us made my head spin. In total, we're looking at approximately $73,000 in direct theft, Marcus said, spreading documents across his conference table. That includes the diverted monthly support payments, fraudulent credit cards opened in your name, personal loans taken out using your identity, and tax refund fraud. $73,000. The number was too big to process. Additionally, the lake house itself represents another complication. Legally, the deed is in your name, Mrs. Carter, but Ryan paid for it, and Vanessa arranged for her family to occupy it. The property management company was being paid from Ryan's account to maintain a house they believed you were living in. So it's mine? I asked. Legally? Yes. The deed transfer was fraudulent, but it did technically go through. So yes, you are the legal owner of 847 Lakeview Drive. A house. I owned a house. After years of renting, of never being sure I could make next month's payment, I owned property. It felt surreal. What about our family? I asked. The people living there? They were removed yesterday evening. The property is currently secured and empty. We've changed the locks and informed the property management company of the situation. Did they have somewhere to go? Marcus looked at me with something like surprise. I believe Vanessa's brother found a short-term rental nearby. Why? Just wondering. But I wasn't just wondering. Part of me, the part that had scrubbed floors and skipped meals but never lost her empathy entirely, worried about those kids. They hadn't chosen this. They'd just lived in a house their aunt provided, probably not asking too many questions because people generally don't. There's another issue we need to discuss, Marcus continued. The tax implications. Vanessa filed false returns in your name, claiming income you didn't earn and deductions you weren't entitled to. The IRS will need to be notified and the returns amended. This could get complicated. How complicated? Potentially penalties and fees, but given that you're a victim of identity theft, we should be able to get those waived. It'll just take time and documentation. Time and documentation. The story of my life lately. We spent 3 more hours going through everything. Signing affidavits, reviewing statements, building the case. By the time we finished, my head was pounding and my chest felt tight. "Are you okay, Mom?" Ryan asked as we left Marcus's office. "Just tired." "We have your cardiology appointment tomorrow at 10. Don't forget." I'd already forgotten. "I'll be ready." He drove me back to the hotel. As I got out, he grabbed my hand. "Thank you for doing all this. I know it's exhausting." "It's necessary," I said, echoing his words from yesterday. That night, I lay in the hotel bed staring at the ceiling. My phone sat on the nightstand, Vanessa's message still glowing in my mind even though I'd deleted it. She was sorry. She'd never meant to hurt anyone, but she had hurt people, me most of all. And sorry wasn't enough. Being sorry didn't give me back the mornings I'd woken up at 4 a.m. for my shift, my knees screaming. Didn't erase the nights I'd eaten pasta 3 meals in a row because it was all I could afford. Didn't fix the relationship with my son that had been damaged by her lies. Sorry was just a word people said when they got caught. Around midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Mrs. Carter?" A woman's voice, older, familiar from yesterday. "This is Patricia Blake, Vanessa's mother." I sat up straight. "How did you get this number?" "Vanessa gave it to me. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but please just listen for a minute." I should have hung up, but I didn't. "Vanessa made a terrible mistake," Patricia continued in a rush. "But she's not a bad person. She was just trying to help her family. My husband lost his job and we were going to lose our house. Vanessa couldn't stand watching us struggle. So she made me struggle instead," I said flatly. "She didn't think you were struggling. She thought Ryan had plenty of money, that you were taken care of." "I wasn't. I worked night shifts as a janitor while your family lived in my house." Silence on the other end. Then, quieter. "I didn't know that. Vanessa told us you didn't want the lake house, that you preferred city living, that Ryan had offered it to you, but you'd declined." "She lied to you too, then." "I'm starting to see that." Patricia's voice cracked. "But Mrs. Carter, please, if you press criminal charges, Vanessa could go to prison for years. She has a daughter. Did you know that? From her first marriage. Emma is 11 years old. She needs her mother." My heart clenched. I didn't know about a daughter. "Vanessa doesn't have custody right now. Emma lives with her father, but they were working on a new arrangement. If Vanessa goes to prison, she might never get custody back." I closed my eyes. A child. Another victim in this whole mess. "That's not my responsibility," I said, but the words felt hollow. I know it's not, but I'm begging you anyway. Mother to mother, please don't destroy my daughter's life. Your daughter destroyed mine, and she'll pay for that. We'll all pay for it. But does she have to go to prison? Can't there be another way?" "Like what? She just says sorry and we all move on?" "No, she pays you back, every penny. We'll sell everything we have if we need to. I'll get a job, my son will contribute. But please don't send her to prison." I wanted to feel nothing, to be hard and cold and focused only on justice. But I kept thinking about that 11-year-old girl, Emma, who probably had no idea what her mother had done, who might lose her chance at a relationship because of adult mistakes and greed and desperation. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "Thank you. Thank you so much." I hung up. For a long time I sat in the dark hotel room thinking about children paying for their parents' sins, about how my own son had suffered because of Vanessa's lies, about how this Emma girl might suffer too, in a different way. There were no good choices, only degrees of pain spread across different people in different ways. And somehow, I had to decide which pain was justified and which wasn't. The weight of that decision felt heavier than anything I'd carried cleaning office buildings at 3 a.m. I didn't tell Ryan about Patricia's call. Not the next morning when he picked me up for the cardiology appointment, not during the 2-hour wait at the specialist's office, not even when the doctor confirmed what I'd been afraid of: atrial fibrillation, irregular heartbeat that could lead to stroke if left untreated. "How long have you been experiencing symptoms?" Dr. Kaplan asked, her stethoscope still pressed against my chest. "Maybe a year? The dizziness comes and goes. And you didn't come in sooner because I couldn't afford the copay. Because I told myself it was just stress. Because admitting something was wrong meant admitting I couldn't handle things on my own. I thought it would go away," I said instead. Dr. Kaplan gave me a look that said she'd heard that excuse 1,000 times and didn't believe it once. Mrs. Carter, AFIB doesn't go away on its own. You need medication, possibly a procedure down the line if the medication doesn't control it, and you need to be monitored regularly. She wrote prescriptions, scheduled follow-ups, gave me pamphlets about heart-healthy living that might as well have been written in another language for all the good they'd do someone who'd been living on pasta and canned soup. Ryan sat silent through most of it, but I could feel the guilt radiating off him in waves. In the car afterward, he finally spoke. "A year. You've been dealing with heart problems for a year. It wasn't that bad." "Stop." His hands gripped the steering wheel. "Just stop pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't. You could have had a stroke, Mom. You could have died alone in that apartment, and I wouldn't have known until—" His voice broke. "But I didn't," I said quietly. "I'm here. We're fixing it." "Are we?" Because it feels like we're just discovering how much damage has already been done. He wasn't just talking about my heart. We both knew that. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Need to meet today. New developments. 3 p.m. at my office?" I showed Ryan. His jaw tightened. "What now?" We found out at 3 o'clock, sitting across from Marcus in his corner office with its view of the city skyline. "Vanessa's lawyer contacted me this morning," Marcus said, sliding a folder across his desk. "She's proposing a settlement. Full restitution of all stolen funds, $73,000, plus an additional $50,000 for damages and legal fees. Payment plan over 5 years. In exchange, you agree not to press criminal charges." I stared at the papers. The numbers swam in front of my eyes. "That's $123,000 total," Ryan said slowly. "She's offering more than she stole. The extra is to compensate for emotional distress, time lost, and to make the civil settlement more attractive than criminal prosecution." Marcus tapped the folder. "It's actually a smart move on her lawyer's part. Shows good faith, makes it harder to argue for prison time." "Can she even pay that much?" I asked. "Her lawyer claims she has access to funds, probably family money, selling assets, loans. The payment plan suggests she doesn't have it all up front, but they're guaranteeing the full amount." Ryan leaned back in his chair. "And if we say no?" "Then we move forward with criminal charges. She likely faces 2 to 4 years in prison, and you'd have to fight for restitution through the court system, which could take years and might not result in full recovery. So we take the money and let her walk?" Ryan's voice was hard. "That's one way to look at it," Marcus said carefully. "Another way is that you get full financial compensation faster, and Vanessa still faces consequences. 5 years of payments, legal fees, probably bankruptcy, and a destroyed reputation. She'll never work in finance again with this on her record." I thought about Patricia's call, about Emma, the 11-year-old daughter who needed her mother, about how prison would destroy any chance Vanessa had of rebuilding that relationship. "Can I see her?" I asked suddenly, "before I decide?" Both men looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Mom, that's not a good idea," Ryan started. "I need to look her in the eye," I said. "I need to understand why. Not the excuses, not the lawyer's version. Her version." Marcus exchanged a glance with Ryan. "I can arrange it. A mediated meeting with both lawyers present." "No lawyers, just her and me." "Absolutely not," Ryan said. "She's a criminal. She could what? Steal more of my identity over coffee?" I shook my head. "Ryan, I appreciate you trying to protect me, but this is my decision to make, and I can't make it without talking to her first." He didn't like it, but he was learning, slowly, painfully, that treating me like a child who needed protection wasn't the same as treating me like a mother who deserved respect. "Fine," he said finally, "but I'm coming with you. I'll wait outside, but I'm there." Marcus set it up for the next morning. A coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. Vanessa agreed immediately, which told me she was desperate. I barely slept that night. Kept rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd stay calm, how I wouldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me. But every script I wrote in my head sounded wrong. Too angry, too weak, too emotional, too cold. Finally, around 3 a.m., I gave up trying. I'd just have to see what came out when the moment arrived. Ryan picked me up at 9. He looked worse than I felt. dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed, wearing yesterday's shirt. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked. "No. I kept thinking about every time she lied to me, every conversation where she talked about checking on you at the lake house, asking how you were doing, telling me you were happy." He pulled into traffic. "She'd come home from supposedly visiting you and describe what you'd cooked for dinner, how the garden was coming along, what you'd talked about. She created this whole fantasy life for you, and I believed every word." "She's good at lying," I said. "That's what makes her dangerous." We got to the coffee shop 20 minutes early. Ryan wanted to scope it out, make sure there were other people around, that I'd be safe. As if Vanessa was going to attack me over lattes, but I let him fuss. It made him feel useful. At exactly 10 o'clock, Vanessa walked in. I almost didn't recognize her. The polished, elegant woman from Thanksgiving was gone. This Vanessa had greasy hair pulled into a messy ponytail, no makeup, wearing jeans and a wrinkled sweater. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in 5 days. She saw me and froze. For a second, I thought she might run. Then she straightened her shoulders and walked to my table. "Thank you for meeting me," she said quietly. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "I wasn't sure you would." "Sit," I said. She sat. We stared at each other across the small table. The coffee shop hummed with morning activity around us, people ordering drinks, typing on laptops, living their normal lives while mine hung in the balance of this conversation. "I'm sorry," Vanessa said finally. "I know that's not enough. I know words can't fix what I did, but I need you to know that I am genuinely, truly sorry." "Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" She flinched. "Both. I'm not going to lie to you anymore, Evelyn. Yes, I'm sorry I got caught, but I'm also sorry I did it in the first place. It started as just one transfer, $3,000 to help my mom with her mortgage. I told myself I'd pay it back before anyone noticed." "But you didn't." "No, because then my brother needed money for his kids' medical bills, and then my mom's car broke down, and then—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "It became easier each time. The first transfer was terrifying. The 10th one felt routine. By the time I'd stolen $70,000, I'd convinced myself it wasn't really stealing because I was helping my family and you were fine." "Except I wasn't fine," I said. My voice stayed calm, but my hands shook under the table. I was working night shifts at 63 years old, skipping medication, eating pasta every night because I couldn't afford real groceries. I know that now. But I didn't let myself think about it then. I created this story in my head where you were just stubborn, preferring your independence and your small apartment, where Ryan's money was going to waste on someone who didn't even want it. That's convenient. Telling yourself the victim doesn't really need what you're stealing. Her eyes filled with tears. It wasn't convenient. It was necessary. I couldn't have kept doing it if I'd let myself see the truth. So I lied. To Ryan, to you, to myself. I built this elaborate fantasy where everyone was fine and I was just redistributing resources that weren't being used anyway. "And the lake house? Your family living there?" "That was my mom's idea initially," Vanessa said. "She asked if Ryan had any properties sitting empty. I told her about the lake house and she suggested they could watch over it, keep it maintained. At first they were just going to stay a few months until they got back on their feet. But then it became permanent. And I let it happen because it was easier than admitting what I'd done." I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. "Tell me about your daughter." Vanessa's face crumbled. "Emma. She's 11, lives with her father in Seattle." "Why doesn't she live with you?" "Because I worked too much when she was younger. Traveled constantly for my old job. Her father argued I was never around, that he could provide a more stable home. And he was right." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I lost custody when she was 7. I've been trying to get her back ever since. We were finally making progress. She was going to come stay with me this summer, trial run for a custody adjustment. And now? Now? If I go to prison, I lose her forever. Tom, her father, will use it to prove I'm unfit. Emma will grow up thinking her mother is a criminal who chose crime over her." "You did choose crime, Sab," I pointed out, "just not over her, over me." "I chose wrong," Vanessa whispered. "I made terrible, selfish, devastating choices, and I deserve to be punished for them. But Emma doesn't deserve to lose her mother." I almost lost my son because of your lies, I said. My voice cracked despite my attempts to stay controlled. Ryan thought I didn't need him, that I was happy and independent and fine. You took away 2 years we could have had together. Years I'll never get back. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just trying to avoid prison, using your daughter as a bargaining chip, making me into the bad guy if I press charges. That's not... She stopped, wiped her eyes. You're right, that is what I'm doing, because I'm desperate and scared and I don't know how else to make this right. You can't make it right, I said flatly. There is no making this right. You stole my money, my identity, my time, and my peace of mind. You destroyed my trust in my own son and his trust in himself. You took the years I had left and made them smaller, harder, more painful than they needed to be. Nothing you do will ever make that right. She nodded, tears streaming freely now. People at other tables were starting to stare. But, I continued, my heart pounding, you can pay me back. You can face consequences. You can spend the rest of your life proving you're more than the worst thing you've ever done. The settlement, she said hopefully. You'll take it? I haven't decided yet. I leaned forward. Here's what I need to know, Vanessa. If I let you avoid prison, if I take your money and let you keep your freedom, are you going to do this to someone else? 10 years from now, when things get hard again, are you going to find another vulnerable person and steal from them too? No, she said immediately. Never. I swear. Don't swear. Just tell me the truth. Are you a person who made a terrible mistake, or are you a person who steals when things get difficult? She was quiet for a long moment. Outside, cars passed by. Someone's phone rang. The espresso machine hissed. I don't know, Vanessa said finally. I want to say I'm someone who made a mistake, but I made that mistake over and over for 2 years. So maybe I'm just someone who steals. Maybe prison is exactly what I deserve. It was the first completely honest thing she'd said to me, maybe ever. And somehow, that honesty hurt more than all the lies. I need to think about it, I said, standing up. Evelyn, please, I'm not saying no. I'm saying I need to think. I picked up my purse. You destroyed my life because you couldn't face the consequences of your choices. I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to think about this carefully and decide what's right. Not what's easiest. Not what makes me feel better. What's actually right. I walked out before she could respond. Ryan was waiting by the car, pacing. How did it go? He asked immediately. She has a daughter, I said. 11 years old, lives with her father in Seattle. Ryan's face went pale. I didn't know that? Neither did I. Apparently there's a lot about Vanessa we didn't know. We drove in silence for a while. Finally, Ryan spoke. Are you going to take the settlement? I don't know. Are you going to divorce her? I already filed the papers. Marcus is handling it. He glanced at me. But that's different. I was her husband. You're her victim. So were you, I said quietly. She lied to you too, manipulated you, used your love for me against you. That's not the same as what she did to you. No, but it still hurt you, and you get to decide how to handle that hurt, same as I do. We pulled up to the hotel. I got out, then leaned back in through the window. Ryan, whatever I decide, it's not a reflection on you. It's not about whether I'm being strong enough or angry enough or anything else. It's just about what I can live with. He nodded, eyes wet. I just want you to get justice. I know, but sometimes justice looks different than we think it should. That afternoon, I walked. Just walked around downtown, looking at the city I'd lived in for 40 years but never really seen. Too busy working, surviving, existing in the small space my life had become. I walked past restaurants I'd never eaten in, shops I'd never browsed, parks where I'd never sat on a bench just to watch people pass by. All the life I'd been too tired, too poor, too busy to live. And I realized something. Vanessa had stolen my money. But I'd already given away my life long before she entered it, given it away to work, to exhaustion, to the belief that my purpose was to sacrifice everything for everyone else. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Carter? A young voice, nervous. This is Emma Blake, Vanessa's daughter. My heart stopped. Emma, I know I'm not supposed to call you, My mom doesn't know I am, but I found your number in her phone and I just... The girl's voice broke. Please don't send my mom to prison. Please. She made a mistake, I know she did. But she's trying to fix it, and I need her. I finally get to spend time with her this summer, and if she goes to jail, I'll lose her again, and I can't... Emma, I said gently. Honey, slow down. I'm sorry. She was crying now. I'm sorry for what she did to you. I'm sorry she stole from you. But she's still my mom, and I love her. And I already lost her once when I was little because of the divorce, and I can't lose her again. Please. I sat down on a bench, my own eyes filling with tears. Emma, how old are you? 11. I'll be 12 in March. 11 years old? The same age Ryan had been when Daniel first got sick, when our perfect little family started cracking under the weight of medical bills and fear and the terrible knowledge that time was running out. Your mom made very serious mistakes, I said carefully, adult mistakes with adult consequences. I know, but people deserve second chances, don't they? Isn't that what being a good person means? Giving people chances to do better? Out of the mouths of children. This little girl I'd never met, fighting for her mother with the kind of fierce love that broke through all the complicated adult reasoning. Emma, I need to ask you something, I said. Has your mom been a good mother to you when you do see her? She tries really hard, Emma said immediately. She comes to Seattle once a month to visit. We go to the aquarium or the science center or just walk around and talk. She remembers everything I tell her. She sends me books she thinks I'd like. Last month, she stayed up all night helping me with my science project over video chat. Her voice got quieter. She's not perfect, but she loves me. I know she loves me. I believe you, I said softly. So you won't send her to prison? I haven't decided yet, honey. This is complicated. Life is complicated, Emma said with the simple wisdom of children. But love doesn't have to be. You either forgive someone or you don't. After I hung up, I sat on that bench for a long time, watching people live their lives, thinking about forgiveness and justice and what the difference was between being merciful and being a fool. My phone buzzed again. Marcus this time, actually calling instead of texting. Evelyn, we need your decision by tomorrow morning, he said. The DA wants to move forward one way or another. I know. Have you thought about what you want to do? I've thought about nothing else. And? I watched a mother walk by with a daughter about Emma's age. They were laughing about something, heads bent together in that conspiratorial way mothers and daughters have. Can I ask you something, Marcus? Not as my lawyer, just as a person? Of course. If someone hurt you badly, really devastated your life, but you had the power to hurt them back just as badly, would you? Even if it meant hurting innocent people too. He was quiet for a moment. Are we talking about Emma? We're talking about all of it. The settlement means Vanessa stays free, but broke for the next 5 years, struggling to pay me back. Prison means she loses everything, including her daughter. Which one is justice? That's not a question I can answer for you. Try anyway. Another pause. Then, my father used to say that justice is about balance. Not revenge, but balance. Restoring what was taken as much as possible. By that measure, the settlement achieves more justice than prison. You get your money back. Vanessa faces real consequences, but no one's life is completely destroyed. But she'd get away with it, in a way. Would she? 5 years of payments, bankruptcy, destroyed credit, ruined reputation, lost job opportunities, and knowing she came within inches of losing her daughter forever? That's not getting away with anything. That's living with consequences every day. He was right. I knew he was right. But the angry part of me, the part that had scrubbed floors at 3 a.m. and skipped medication and eaten pasta for dinner 60 nights in a row, wanted more. Wanted Vanessa to suffer the way I'd suffered. I'll call you in the morning, I said. Evelyn? Yeah? Whatever you decide, make sure you can live with it. Not just now, but 10 years from now when you look back. Make sure it's a decision you can be at peace with. That night, I sat in the hotel room with a pad of paper, drew a line down the middle, wrote criminal charges on one side and settlement on the other. Under criminal charges, I listed justice, accountability, preventing her from doing this to others, setting an example, protecting future victims. Under settlement, I listed faster restitution, Emma keeps her mother. Vanessa still faces consequences. Less damage to Ryan. Merciful. I stared at those lists for 2 hours. They both looked right. They both looked wrong. Finally, I called Ryan. Mom, it's 11 p.m. Are you okay? I need to ask you something. Okay. If this was your decision to make, what would you choose? He sighed heavily. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants her to go to prison forever, but part of me remembers the woman I fell in love with, the one who helped me pick out your Mother's Day gifts and laughed at my stupid jokes and told me she wanted to make me happy. His voice cracked. I don't know who that woman was. Maybe she never existed, but I can't forget her either. She existed, I said quietly. People aren't all good or all bad. She was both. The woman you loved and the woman who stole from me. Both real. How do you do that? Ryan asked. How do you see it so clearly when you're the one she hurt most? Because I'm 63 years old and I've been alive long enough to know that hurt people, and broken people break others. And sometimes mercy isn't about whether someone deserves it. It's about whether you can carry the weight of not giving it. I could hear him crying softly on the other end of the line. I'm taking the settlement, I said. The words came out before I'd fully decided, but as soon as I spoke them, I knew they were right. Not because she deserves mercy, but because Emma deserves a mother, and because I'm tired of being angry. I want my life back, Ryan, my real life, not a life spent in courtrooms and depositions and watching someone else's world burn. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. I called Marcus at 7 a.m. the next morning. I'll take the settlement, but I want conditions. What conditions? Vanessa has to meet with me once a month for the next year. No lawyers, no mediators, just her and me. I want to watch her make those payments. I want to see her face the consequences of what she did. And if she misses even one payment or one meeting, the deal is off, and I press charges immediately. That's unusual. That's my offer. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then, I'll present it to her lawyer. But Evelyn, this means staying connected to her, seeing her regularly, reliving this over and over. Are you prepared for that? No, I said honestly, but I'm doing it anyway, because someone needs to make sure she actually learned something from this. And it might as well be me. 2 days later, we all met in Marcus's office to sign the settlement agreement. Vanessa looked even worse than she had at the coffee shop, hollow-eyed, thin, shaking as she signed each page. When it was done, she looked up at me. The monthly meetings, why? Because I don't trust you, I said simply, and I want to make sure you remember what you did. Every month, for a full year, you're going to look me in the eye and hand me a check and think about the life you stole. That's fair, she whispered. No, it's not. Nothing about this is fair, but it's what I'm willing to live with. Ryan drove me to the lake house that afternoon. The real estate company had cleaned it, changed the locks, removed all traces of Vanessa's family. It looked exactly as it had when I'd first seen it. Beautiful, peaceful, empty. It's yours now, Ryan said. Fully yours. No more stolen money, no more fraudulent deeds, just your house. I walked through the rooms slowly. The kitchen with its view of the lake, the bedrooms with their big windows, the porch where I could sit and watch the sunrise. Everything I'd dreamed about, everything I'd lost, everything I was getting back. But it felt hollow somehow, like putting on someone else's clothes. This house had been built on lies and theft and betrayal. How was I supposed to make it feel like home? I don't know if I can live here, I said quietly. Ryan looked stricken. Why not? Because it's beautiful and peaceful and everything I wanted. But every time I look at it, I'll think about Vanessa's family living here, about the life I should have had, about how close I came to losing everything. I turned to him. How do I make new memories here when the old ones haven't even happened yet? He didn't have an answer, neither did I. We stood on the porch as the sun set over Lake Harmony, turning the water gold and purple and impossibly beautiful. And I thought about Emma, who'd called me crying, about Vanessa, who'd stolen my life but was paying for it now in ways that would hurt for years, about Ryan, who'd tried to love both of us and gotten caught in the middle, about myself, standing in a beautiful house I legally owned but couldn't quite claim as home. The first payment would come in 30 days, and 30 days after that, I'd sit across from Vanessa again and watch her hand over money she probably couldn't afford to pay back. For a full year, we'd be bound together, Victim and thief, grandmother and daughter-in-law, two women whose lives had collided in the worst possible way. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. But maybe that was okay. Maybe justice wasn't supposed to feel good. Maybe it was just supposed to feel done. The water lapped gently against the dock. Birds called to each other in the trees. Somewhere in Seattle, a little girl named Emma was going to sleep knowing her mother would be there in the morning. And that, at least, felt like something worth the price I'd paid. The first payment came exactly 30 days later, delivered not by mail but by Vanessa herself, standing on the porch of the lake house at 10 a.m. on a cold December morning. I'd moved in 2 weeks earlier, not because I wanted to, but because Ryan had looked at me with those worried eyes and said, "Mom, you can't keep living in a hotel. It's your house now, please. Just try." So I'd tried. Brought my few belongings from the apartment I'd given up, arranged my secondhand furniture in rooms that deserved better, and spent my first night listening to the unfamiliar sounds of water and wind instead of Mrs. Patterson's TV. I hadn't slept at all. Now Vanessa stood at my door holding an envelope, looking worse than the last time I'd seen her. She'd lost weight. Her expensive clothes hung loose. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Come in," I said, stepping back. She walked into the house she'd stolen from me, looking around with an expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt, maybe? Or loss? Or just exhaustion? We sat at the kitchen table, a new one Ryan had bought because I'd refused to use the furniture Vanessa's family had left behind. Everything they'd touched had been donated or sold. I wanted no trace of them in my space. Vanessa slid the envelope across the table. First payment, $2,050. That's the monthly amount plus interest, like the agreement specified. I opened it. A cashier's check, made out correctly, dated today. I set it aside without comment. "Is that all?" she asked. "What else did you expect?" "I don't know. Questions maybe? Yelling? Something?" "I'm not going to yell at you, Vanessa. That's not what these meetings are about." "Then what are they about?" I looked at her directly. "Accountability. You're going to sit here every month for the next year and remember what you did. You're going to look at me living in this house and know it should have always been mine. You're going to hand over money you probably can't afford and feel exactly as powerless as you made me feel." She flinched. "That's cruel." "Yes," I agreed. "It is. But so was stealing my life." We sat in uncomfortable silence. Outside, the lake was gray under December clouds. No snow yet, but it felt like it was coming. "How's Emma?" I asked finally. Vanessa's face softened immediately. "She's good. Coming to visit for Christmas. First time in 3 years she's spending the holiday with me." "That must feel nice." "It does, but it also terrifies me." She twisted her hands together. "What if I mess it up? What if she realizes I'm not worth fighting for? Then you'll deal with it, same as everyone else who's afraid of disappointing their kids." "Did you ever feel that way with Ryan?" The question surprised me. Every day, especially after his father died. I was working 2 jobs trying to keep us afloat, and all I could think was that I was failing him, that he deserved better than an exhausted mother who could barely afford to keep the lights on. "But you gave him everything," Vanessa said softly. "He talks about you all the time, about your sacrifices, your strength. He thinks you're a hero." "I'm not a hero. I'm just a mother who did what needed to be done." I leaned back in my chair. "But that's the thing, Vanessa. You had a daughter who needed you, and instead of doing what needed to be done, working harder, asking for help, making sacrifices, you stole from someone else's mother. You took the easy way." "It wasn't easy," she said, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Wasn't it? Easier than telling your family no. Easier than watching them struggle. Easier than facing the fact that you couldn't save everyone." She didn't answer, just stared at the check sitting between us. "You can go now," I said. "Same time next month." She stood, hesitated. "Evelyn, thank you for not pressing charges, for giving me a chance to make this right." "I didn't do it for you," I said. "I did it for Emma. Don't confuse the two." After she left, I sat at the table for a long time, looking at that check. $2,050, one of 60 payments. 5 years of this, monthly meetings, forced encounters, living in the shadow of what she'd done. Had I made the right choice? I didn't know, but it was done now. Ryan came by that afternoon bringing groceries and concern in equal measure. How did it go? Fine. She paid. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. Then she left. That's it? What else did you want? A fight? Tears? This isn't a TV show, Ryan. It's just two people dealing with the mess one of them made. He unpacked the groceries, real food, expensive food, more than I needed. I worry about you here alone. It's so isolated. I like isolated. Beats hearing neighbors through the walls. But what if something happens? What if your heart... Then I'll call 911 like anyone else. I softened my tone. Ryan, I appreciate the concern, but you can't bubble wrap me. I'm old, not helpless. You're 63, that's not old. It feels old when your knees sound like Rice Krispies every time you stand up. That got a small smile out of him, but the worry didn't leave his eyes. Have you heard from her otherwise? He asked, carefully not using Vanessa's name. Outside the payment? No, the settlement agreement says we only communicate during the monthly meetings unless there's an emergency. And the divorce? What about it? It's final next week. She didn't contest anything, just signed and sent it back. I studied my son's face. He was trying to look relieved, but I saw the grief underneath. 5 years of marriage, gone. No matter how it had ended, that left a mark. How are you handling it? I asked. I'm fine. Ryan. He sighed, sank into a chair. I'm not fine. I'm angry and hurt, and I feel stupid for not seeing what she was doing. And I miss her, which makes me feel even stupider because how can I miss someone who did something so horrible? Because you didn't marry the person who stole from me. You married the person you thought she was, and that person was real to you, even if she wasn't entirely real. How are you so understanding about this? I'm not understanding. I'm just old enough to know that people are complicated. That doesn't excuse what she did. But it also doesn't mean every moment you shared with her was a lie. He put his head in his hands. I don't know how to do this, Mom. How to move forward. How to trust anyone again. One day at a time, I said. Same way I'm doing it. Christmas came 2 weeks later. Ryan invited me to spend it with him at his house, the house he'd shared with Vanessa, now empty except for his furniture and his guilt. I can't, I told him. Not there. Too many memories that aren't even mine. So he came to the lake house instead. We cooked dinner together, just the two of us. Turkey breast, mashed potatoes, green beans, nothing fancy. But it was ours. We were halfway through the meal when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Neither was Ryan. We looked at each other, confused. I opened the door to find a girl standing there, thin, dark hair, Vanessa's eyes in a younger face. Behind her stood a man in his 40s, handsome in a worn-down kind of way. Emma? I said. The girl nodded. I'm sorry to just show up. My dad said I shouldn't, but I had to meet you. I had to say thank you in person. The man, Tom, Vanessa's ex-husband, gave me an apologetic look. I tried to talk her out of it, but when Emma gets an idea in her head, she's stubborn, I finished. Runs in the family, apparently. Emma looked past me, saw Ryan at the table. Oh, you're having Christmas dinner. We should go. Don't be silly, I heard myself say. Come in. There's plenty of food. I don't know what made me invite them in. Maybe the look on Emma's face, desperate to connect, to understand, to make sense of the adult chaos she'd been caught in. Maybe the memory of being 11 years old myself, confused by grown-up problems I couldn't fix. Or maybe I just didn't want to be the kind of person who turned away a child on Christmas. Tom hesitated, but Emma was already through the door, taking in the house with wide eyes. This is where my grandmother and uncle were living? Yes, I said simply. It's beautiful. She turned to me. I'm glad you got it back. It should have been yours. Ryan stood, extending his hand to Tom. I'm Ryan, Evelyn's son. Tom Blake, Emma's father. They shook, both men awkward with the strangeness of the situation. And Vanessa's ex-husband, though I'm guessing you knew that. We all sat around the table, the most unlikely Christmas gathering imaginable. I served them plates while Ryan poured drinks, and for a few minutes we just ate in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Emma spoke. My mom told me what she did was wrong, really wrong. She cries about it a lot. Emma, Tom warned gently. No, Dad. She needs to know. Emma looked at me with fierce sincerity. Mom's not making excuses. She knows she messed up bad, but she's trying to fix it. She got a job at a call center. It pays nothing compared to what she used to make, but she takes every shift they offer. She sold her car and takes the bus now. She's living in a tiny apartment and she barely eats because all her money goes to paying you back. That's not Mrs. Carter's responsibility, Tom said quietly. I know, but I want her to know that Mom's really suffering, that she's not just getting away with it. I set down my fork. Emma, I appreciate you telling me that, but your mother's suffering doesn't erase what she did to me. I'm glad she's working hard to make restitution, but that's what she owes, not something I should feel grateful for. I know, Emma whispered. I don't want you to think she's a monster. She made monster choices, but she's still my mom, and she loves me, and she's trying. Tom put his arm around his daughter. What Emma's trying to say, I think, is thank you for not pressing charges, for giving Vanessa a chance to be in her daughter's life. I didn't do it to be nice, I said honestly. I did it because I couldn't live with taking a mother away from her child. But that doesn't mean I've forgiven what she did, or that we're ever going to be a happy family. We're not a family at all, Ryan said, speaking for the first time since they'd arrived. His voice was hard. Emma, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but my mother is the victim here, not Vanessa. I know that, Emma said, tears forming. I'm not trying to make excuses. I just wanted Mrs. Carter to know that there are consequences, real ones, that my mom is paying in more ways than just money. We finished dinner in strained silence. Emma tried to help with dishes, but I shooed her away. Tom thanked us for the meal with genuine gratitude that made me feel worse somehow, like I'd done something generous instead of just not being cruel. As they were leaving, Emma turned back at the door. Can I ask you something, Mrs. Carter? Sure. Do you think people can change, really change, not just say they're sorry, but actually become different? I thought about it. About Vanessa's hollow eyes and trembling hands, about the easy life she'd given up to work at a call center and ride the bus. About 5 years of payments stretching ahead of her. I think people can change, I said slowly, but change is hard. It takes more than just feeling bad about what you did. It takes choosing differently every single day, even when it's difficult, even when you want to take the easy way again. Mom's choosing differently, Emma said softly. Every day. I see it. After they left, Ryan exploded. What the hell was that? Why did you let them in? Because she's a child who needed to see that I'm not a villain in her mother's story. You're not any part of her mother's story. You're the victim. You don't owe that family anything. I know. But Emma didn't steal from me. And I remember being her age, confused by adult problems, trying to make sense of why the world was falling apart. Ryan paced the living room. You're too forgiving. Vanessa doesn't deserve your understanding. I'm not forgiving her. I'm just refusing to be cruel to a child who's already been through enough. That child's mother destroyed 2 years of your life, and she'll spend 5 years paying for it, probably longer, if you count the way this will follow her forever. I sat down heavily. Ryan, I'm angry too. I'm furious. Some days I wake up and I'm so mad I can barely breathe, but I can't let that anger turn me into someone I don't want to be. He stopped pacing, looked at me with wet eyes. I don't know how you're so strong. I'm not strong, I'm just tired of being angry. There's a difference. That night, alone in the lake house, I thought about Emma's question. Could people really change? I wanted to believe they could, but I'd seen too much of life to be that naive. Change required not just wanting to be different, but doing the hard work of becoming different. And most people, when it came down to it, chose comfort over growth. Would Vanessa choose differently? Or would she finish her 5 years of payments and then fall back into old patterns, finding new victims to fund her family's needs? I didn't know. But Emma's face haunted me, that desperate hope that her mother could be better. I knew that hope. I'd felt it myself every time Ryan had promised to visit and then canceled. Every time I'd told myself he was just busy, that he still loved me, that the distance wasn't permanent. Hope was a dangerous thing. It kept you holding on long after you should have let go. The second payment came in January. Vanessa looked thinner, more tired. She handed over the check without meeting my eyes. Tom and Emma came to see you at Christmas, she said. Emma told me. She's a good kid. She is, Better than I deserve. Vanessa finally looked up. She thinks you're a good person. She came home talking about how you invited them to dinner, how kind you were. I wasn't kind. I was just not unnecessarily cruel. Those aren't the same thing. To Emma, they are. She doesn't have a lot of adults in her life who choose not to be cruel. Vanessa's voice was bitter. Her father's new wife doesn't want her around. My family's too wrapped up in their own drama to care. So when you showed her basic decency, it mattered. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't want the weight of mattering to a child I barely knew. How's the job? I asked, changing the subject. Awful. I answer customer service calls for an insurance company. People scream at me for 8 hours a day about things I can't control. She laughed without humor. Turns out I'm good at being yelled at now. Lots of practice. Is it enough, the salary? Barely. I'm living off ramen and taking the bus everywhere. Sold most of my jewelry, my designer bags, anything with value. Moved into a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. She met my eyes. I know you don't care. I'm not telling you to get sympathy. I'm telling you so you know I'm serious about the payments. I won't miss one. Not ever. See that you don't, I said. Because if you miss even one, I press charges and you go to prison. No second chances. I know. She stood to leave, then hesitated. Evelyn, does it get easier, living with what you've done? I don't know, I said honestly. I've never stolen someone's life before. She left without another word. February's payment came with a complication. Vanessa arrived looking agitated, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. I need to ask you something, she said before even sitting down. And you're going to think I'm manipulating you, but I swear I'm not. What? Emma's father lost his job. His wife kicked Emma out, said she wouldn't support another woman's kid while Tom was unemployed. Emma has nowhere to go. My stomach sank. What are you saying? Tom's asking if Emma can stay with me. Not permanently, just until he gets back on his feet. But Evelyn, I can't afford it. My apartment is tiny. I'm barely feeding myself. The custody agreement requires I have adequate space and resources to house her, and I don't. Tears streamed down her face. I'm going to lose her again, right when we were finally getting close. And it's my fault because I destroyed my finances stealing from you. That's not my problem, I said, but the words felt hollow. I know it's not, but I'm desperate and I don't know who else to ask. She slid the envelope across the table. What if I kept half of this month's payment, used it to get a bigger apartment, buy groceries, set up a room for Emma? Just this once. I'll make it up next month, pay double. No. Please, no. I pushed the envelope back. The agreement says you pay the full amount every month. No exceptions. Then what am I supposed to tell Emma? That she can't live with me because I have to pay restitution to the woman I stole from? How do I explain that to an 11-year-old? You explain that actions have consequences. That when you steal, you lose the right to make choices about your own money. That she can't live with you right now because you destroyed your life with your own hands. Vanessa sobbed. She'll hate me. Maybe. Or maybe she'll learn that crime actually costs something. That you can't just steal your way to a better life. You're really not going to help? I stood up. I didn't create this situation. You did. Emma's homelessness is your fault, not mine. You want me to fix a problem you created by stealing from me? That's not mercy. That's enabling. She's a child. And that's heartbreaking. But it's still not my responsibility to sacrifice my restitution so you can house the daughter you should have been thinking about before you committed fraud. Vanessa left with the check, still crying. I watched her drive away and felt like the worst person alive. But I also knew I was right. If I bent the rules now, what message did that send? That if Vanessa cried hard enough, I'd give in? That my boundaries were negotiable? No. Emma's situation was terrible, but it wasn't my fault. And I couldn't sacrifice my own justice to solve problems Vanessa had created. Ryan called that night. Vanessa contacted me, asked if I'd help with Emma. And? I said no, same as you. How do you feel about that? Terrible, but also clear. Emma's not our responsibility, Mom. As much as it sucks, we can't fix every problem Vanessa creates. I wanted to agree. But that night I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Emma, about being 11 and having nowhere stable to go. about how children suffer for adult choices they had no part in making. Around midnight, I called Tom. Mr. Blake, this is Evelyn Carter. Mrs. Carter? He sounded exhausted. If you're calling about Emma, where is she now? With me. In our old house. My ex-wife said she'd give us 2 weeks to figure something out, but his voice broke. I've got nothing. No job, no money, no way to take care of her. And Vanessa can't afford it either thanks to the restitution payments. Those payments are court-ordered, I said firmly. They're not optional. I know. I'm not asking you to reduce them. I don't know what to do. Emma wants to live with her mother so badly. They were finally building a relationship, and now it's falling apart again, and she thinks it's her fault somehow. It's not her fault. I know that, you know that, but she's 11. She thinks if she was worth more, we'd figure it out. I closed my eyes, saw myself at 11, watching my own mother struggle, believing somehow I was the burden making everything harder. I'll call you back, I said. I spent the next 2 hours staring at the lake in the darkness, thinking about justice and mercy, about the difference between enabling and helping, about whether sometimes the right thing required sacrifice even when it wasn't fair. Finally, I called Marcus. Evelyn, it's almost 1 a.m. I need to modify the settlement agreement. What? Why? Vanessa's daughter needs somewhere to live. I want to let Vanessa reduce this month's payment by half so she can afford a bigger apartment and take custody. Silence. Then, Evelyn, if you do this once, she'll ask again. Every time there's an emergency, that's why I want it in writing. One modification only. She pays half this month, makes it up over the next 12 months through higher payments. If she ever asks for another modification, the deal is void and I press charges immediately. No second chances. Are you sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. The modified agreement was drawn up by morning. I called Vanessa at 8 a.m. You can keep half this month's payment, I said without preamble. Get an apartment that fits Emma. You'll pay me back over the next year through higher payments. It's all in the modification Marcus is sending you. Sign it or lose the deal entirely. She was crying again. Thank you so much. Don't thank me. This isn't kindness. This is me refusing to let a child suffer for your mistakes. But Vanessa? This is the only time. You understand me? The only time. If you ever ask for another modification, I press charges and you go to prison. I don't care if Emma's sick or homeless or whatever sob story you come up with. This is it. I understand. I swear I won't ask again. See that you don't. I hung up and immediately called Tom. Emma can live with her mother. Vanessa's getting a bigger apartment this week. How? Don't ask. Just tell Emma it worked out. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table and cried. Not from sadness or joy or relief, just from the sheer exhaustion of trying to do the right thing when every choice felt wrong. Ryan came by that afternoon and saw the signed modification on my table. You let her reduce the payment, he said flatly. For Emma, not for her. That's a dangerous distinction. I know, but I couldn't live with myself otherwise. He sat down heavily. You're a better person than I am. No, I'm not. I'm just someone who remembers being a child caught in adult problems. And I couldn't do that to Emma. What if Vanessa uses her daughter to manipulate you every time she needs something? Then I press charges and she goes to prison. I made that very clear. Ryan studied me for a long moment. You've changed, you know, since all this happened. How? You're harder, stronger, but also, I don't know, more willing to bend without breaking maybe. That's called survival, I said. I'm learning it late, but better late than never. The months that followed fell into a strange rhythm. Vanessa came every month with her payment, larger now, making up for the February reduction. We'd sit at the table, exchange the check, talk for 10 or 15 minutes about nothing important. She told me about Emma settling into her apartment, about work being awful but manageable, about how her family had stopped speaking to her when they realized they'd have to get jobs instead of living off stolen money. I told her about the lake, about learning to be alone without being lonely, about Ryan visiting every week, and how we were rebuilding something real. We weren't friends. We'd never be friends. But we weren't enemies anymore either. We were just two women bound by damage and restitution, serving out a sentence together. By the time fall came again, nearly a year since that Thanksgiving dinner that had changed everything, I realized I'd stopped dreading the monthly meetings. They'd become routine, expected, almost normal. And that scared me more than anything, because if I could normalize sitting across from the woman who'd stolen my life, what did that say about me? Was I healing or just going numb? I didn't have an answer. But November was approaching fast, and with it would come the 1-year anniversary of the day my world had fallen apart. I wondered what that day would bring. Another payment? Another crisis? Or just another quiet morning by the lake, watching the water and wondering how I'd ended up here, in this beautiful house I'd never really chosen, living a life I'd fought so hard to reclaim but wasn't sure how to inhabit. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and clear, the lake reflecting a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. 1 year exactly since Ryan had asked me about the lake house, and my entire world had collapsed. 1 year since I discovered my daughter-in-law had stolen my life. I stood on the porch with my coffee, watching the sunrise I'd been robbed of for 2 years before I even knew this place existed. The view was beautiful. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt complicated. Ryan was coming for dinner at 2. Just the two of us again, trying to build new traditions on top of the rubble of the old ones. I'd prepared a smaller turkey this time. No need to strain my budget or my back for appearances. I could afford real groceries now. Had proper health insurance. Took all my medications on schedule. On paper, my life was better than it had been in years. So why did I still feel like I was living in someone else's house? My phone rang at 9 a.m. Vanessa's number. "You're not supposed to call outside the monthly meetings," I answered. "I know, I'm sorry, but I need to tell you something, and I couldn't wait until December 1st. She sounded breathless, nervous. "Can I come over, please? It's important." Every instinct screamed no, but curiosity won. "Fine, 1 hour." She arrived in 45 minutes, driving a beat-up Honda that had definitely seen better days. When she got out, I barely recognized her. The elegant woman from a year ago was completely gone. This Vanessa wore discount store clothes, no jewelry, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked normal, average, real. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, following me inside. We sat at the kitchen table, our usual spots now, worn smooth by 11 months of uncomfortable conversations. "What's so important?" I asked. She pulled out an envelope, but this one was different, thicker. "This is the final payment, all of it, everything I owe you." I stared at the envelope. "That's impossible. You have 4 more years of payments." "I know, but I'm paying it off now. The full remaining balance, $98,000. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for the exact amount, drawn on a bank I didn't recognize. "How?" The word came out barely a whisper. "My grandmother died 3 weeks ago. She left me an inheritance, $150,000. I used it to pay off what I owe you, plus penalties and interest Marcus calculated. The rest is going into a trust for Emma's college." She met my eyes. "I wanted you to know I'm not trying to get out of the agreement early. I'm paying my debt. All of it. Today." I looked at the check, at the woman across from me who'd stolen $73,000 and was now handing me nearly $100,000 to close the books on what she'd done. "What do you want me to say?" I asked. "Thank you?" "No, I don't want anything." She stood. "I just wanted you to know it's done. You'll never have to see me again after today. No more monthly meetings, no more reminders. You can actually move on with your life." "Move on," I repeated. The words tasted bitter. Like it's that simple. I know it's not. But Evelyn, I'm trying to give you the only thing I can, freedom from having to deal with me every month. Isn't that what you want? Was it? I'd spent 11 months dreading these meetings, counting down the years until I'd be free of her. And now she was offering exactly that. And all I felt was empty. "Why now?" I asked. "Why not just keep making the payments like we agreed?" "Because Emma asked me to." Vanessa's voice cracked. She said watching me stress about money every month was hurting her, that she could see me suffering and it made her feel guilty for living with me. She's 12 years old and she feels responsible for my financial problems because she knows I'm broke partly because of the restitution. That's not her fault. I know that, but she doesn't. So when my grandmother died and left me money, Emma begged me to pay you off completely. She said maybe then I could relax. Maybe then we could just be normal. Tears spilled down Vanessa's cheeks. She's right. These payments have been hanging over me like a noose. Every month, sitting here being reminded of what I did, it's been destroying me. Good, I said coldly. That was the point. I know, and I deserved it, every month of it. But Evelyn, at some point, doesn't the punishment have to end? At some point, don't I get to try to actually rebuild my life instead of just surviving it? I stood, walked to the window. The lake was so calm today, peaceful, like none of this drama existed beyond these walls. You want me to release you, I said, not just from the debt, but from the guilt. You want me to tell you it's okay now. You've paid enough. You can go be happy. No, I'll never be free of the guilt. I know that. She came to stand beside me, not touching, just close enough that I could see her reflection in the glass. But I want Emma to be free of it. She shouldn't have to carry what I did. And as long as I'm making these payments, as long as I'm visibly suffering every month, she's carrying it with me. I turned to face her. You used her. Again. You're using your daughter's pain to manipulate me into letting you off the hook. Maybe, Vanessa said quietly. Or maybe I'm just a mother trying to protect her child from consequences that should only be mine. Same as you did for Ryan all those years. The comparison hit like a slap. Don't you dare compare. I'm not comparing our situations. I'm just saying I understand now what it's like to sacrifice everything for your kid, to want to shield them from every hard thing, even the things you caused. She wiped her eyes. You sold your house for Ryan's education, worked yourself to the bone. I stole for my family. Both wrong, both born from the same desperate love that makes us do stupid things. My sacrifices were honest. Yours were crimes. Yes, and I'm paying for that. But Emma shouldn't have to keep paying too. I looked at the check in my hand, nearly $100,000, more than I'd ever had at once in my entire life, enough to secure my future, invest, maybe even leave something for Ryan when I died. If I accepted it, Vanessa and I would be done. No more monthly meetings, no more forced contact. I could finally, truly move forward, but something in me resisted, because these meetings had become something I couldn't quite name. Not friendship, not forgiveness, but some strange form of accountability that felt necessary, important. Like, if I let her go now, she'd disappear back into her comfortable life and forget what she'd done. I need to think about it, I said. Vanessa looked stunned. You need to think about accepting almost $100,000? I need to think about what it means to accept it. Whether taking this money and ending our arrangement is actually justice or just convenient closure. Evelyn, I'm handing you a fortune. You're handing me your grandmother's money, not yours. You're not sacrificing anything. You just got lucky with an inheritance. So what do you want? For me to suffer more? To keep struggling for 4 more years even though I could pay you off right now? I don't know what I want. The words came out louder than I intended. I don't know if I want you to suffer or heal or disappear or keep showing up here every month so I can remember that what happened to me actually mattered. I just don't know. We stood in silence. Outside, a bird called. The lake lapped against the shore. Finally, Vanessa spoke. Can I tell you something? Something I've never admitted to anyone? What? These monthly meetings? They've been the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than the divorce, harder than losing my job, harder than everything. Coming here, facing you, being forced to look at what I destroyed, it's been torture. She paused. But it's also been the only thing keeping me honest, the only thing stopping me from lying to myself about what I did. So you need me to keep punishing you? Maybe. Or maybe we both need this arrangement more than we want to admit. You to feel like justice is being served. Me to remember who I don't want to be anymore. She was right, and I hated her for it. Leave the check, I said finally. I'll deposit it. But Vanessa, I'm not releasing you from the monthly meetings. What? We're continuing them. Same time, first Thursday of every month. For the full 5 years like we agreed. You'll show up, we'll talk, and you'll remember. The only difference is you won't be bringing money anymore. You'll just be bringing yourself. Why would you want that? You have your money. What else? Because Emma's not the only one watching you. I am too. And I want to see if you actually change or if you just got lucky with an inheritance that let you buy your way out of consequences. I crossed my arms. 5 years, Vanessa. That was the deal. The money was never the point. The accountability was. Her face crumpled. That's cruel. Yes, it is. But you know what else is cruel? Working night shifts at 63. Skipping heart medication because you can't afford it. Thinking your son forgot about you because his wife was stealing your identity. So we're doing this my way. Take it, or I press charges right now and you go to prison. Your choice. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, 5 years. I'll keep coming. Good. Now get out. I have Thanksgiving dinner to finish. After she left, I stood holding that check, my hands trembling. Nearly $100,000. Freedom. Security. Everything I'd been fighting for. So why did it feel like I just won and lost something at the same time? Ryan arrived at 2 with wine and flowers and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. We both knew what day it was. What anniversary we weren't mentioning. Happy Thanksgiving, he said, kissing my cheek. Happy Thanksgiving, baby. We cooked together, moving around each other with the easy familiarity we'd rebuilt over the past year. He mashed potatoes while I basted the turkey. We talked about his work, about a woman he'd been on 2 dates with, about nothing important. At dinner, we sat across from each other at the table that was finally, truly mine. Can I ask you something? Ryan said, setting down his fork. Sure. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. What kind of question is that? A real one. Are you happy, Mom? Living here, in this house that should have been yours all along, getting your money back, having your life back? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know. I'm comfortable, safe, secure. But happy? I'm not sure I know what that means anymore. Do you wish we'd handled things differently, with Vanessa, the settlement, all of it? Every day? And also never. I took a sip of wine. Ryan, can I tell you something I've never said out loud? Of course. Sometimes I miss my old apartment. He looked shocked. That tiny place with the thin walls and the broken stove? Yeah, because it was mine. I chose it. I made it work. This house, it's beautiful, but it came from theft and lies and pain. I didn't earn it. I didn't choose it. It was forced on me as compensation for what was stolen. I looked around the lovely kitchen, and sometimes that makes it feel like I'm still living in someone else's life, just a nicer version. Mom, I'm not ungrateful. I know how lucky I am. I know you tried to give me something wonderful, but Ryan, the life I had before, poor as it was, exhausting as it was, I built it. This life feels like something that happened to me, not something I created. He was quiet for a long moment. Is that why you made Vanessa keep coming? Even after she paid everything? Partly, but also because I struggled to find the words. Because her showing up every month is the only part of this whole situation I actually controlled. I chose that punishment. I set those terms. Everything else, the money, the house, the investigation, the settlement, it all just happened around me. But those monthly meetings? Those are mine. That's why you won't let her go. I will let her go. In 4 more years when I'm damn good and ready, not when it's convenient for her. Ryan smiled, a real smile this time. You know what, Mom? I think you're going to be okay. Maybe not happy, but okay. And maybe that's enough. Maybe, I agreed. We finished dinner and cleaned up together. Ryan left around 7, promising to visit again on Sunday. I stood on the porch, watching his taillights disappear down the lakeside road, alone again, but not lonely. Not anymore. That night, I did something I hadn't done since moving in. I went through the house room by room and really looked at it. Not as the stolen property it had been, but as the space it could become. In the living room, I rearranged furniture to face the lake view properly. In the kitchen, I threw out the expensive dishes Vanessa's family had left and replaced them with simple plates I'd bought myself at Target. In the guest bedroom, I set up a small desk and chair, a space for writing, maybe, or just thinking. By midnight, the house looked different, not perfect, not magazine-worthy, but mine. Actually, mine. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning, I woke early and walked down to the dock. The lake was perfectly still, reflecting the sunrise in shades of pink and gold. I stood there in my bathrobe and slippers, coffee in hand, and felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace. Not happiness exactly, not joy, just peace. The quiet knowledge that I'd survived something terrible and come out the other side, changed but not broken. My phone buzzed, a text from Emma. Happy day after Thanksgiving. Mom told me she paid everything off. Does that mean you forgive her? I stared at that message for a long time, then typed back, no. But I'm letting her move forward anyway. There's a difference. What difference? Forgiveness is about the past. Moving forward is about the future. Your mom gets a future, but she doesn't get to forget the past. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, that seems fair? It is. Take care of your mom, Emma. She needs people who believe she can be better. I will. And Mrs. Carter, thank you for giving her the chance. After I sent a thumbs up, I put my phone away and just stood there, watching the lake come alive with morning light. The months that followed fell into a new rhythm. Vanessa came every first Thursday, and we talked. Not about money anymore, just about life. She told me about Emma's school plays and her terrible boss at the call center and how she'd started seeing a therapist to deal with the guilt that ate at her constantly. I told her about Ryan's new girlfriend, about the book club I'd joined in town, about learning to paint in the spare bedroom. We weren't friends, but we weren't enemies either. We were just 2 women serving out a sentence together, both changed by what had happened, both trying to figure out who we were supposed to be now. Ryan came every Sunday. We'd have dinner, walk along the lake, talk about everything and nothing. The desperation in his visits had faded. He wasn't checking on me anymore, making sure I was okay. He was just visiting because he wanted to, because we'd rebuilt something real. Sometimes his girlfriend Sarah came too. She was nice, a nurse, divorced, no drama. She treated me like a person, not a charity case. I liked her. Are you going to marry her? I asked Ryan one Sunday in March, almost 18 months after everything had fallen apart. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. He smiled. I'm taking it slow. Turns out I'm not great at judging character. None of us are. We see what we want to see. Do you think I'll ever trust like that again? Completely? Without wondering if someone's lying? Probably not, but that's not always a bad thing. A little wariness keeps you safe. I squeezed his hand. Just don't let it keep you from being happy. In June, Emma came to visit. She was 13 now, taller, more confident. She hugged me at the door like we were old friends. This place is so cool, she said, looking around. Mom says you've really made it your own. Trying to. Still feels like a work in progress. We spent the afternoon on the dock, fishing with poles I'd bought on a whim but never used. Emma talked about school, about her friends, about how her mom was different now, sadder maybe, but also more real. She doesn't pretend everything's fine anymore, Emma said. Before, when I was little and things were bad, she'd just smile and act like nothing was wrong. But now she's honest. She tells me when she's struggling, and that's weird, but also kind of nice. It's nice to know the truth, I agreed, even when it's hard. Do you think she'll ever stop feeling guilty about what she did? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's her burden to carry now. That seems sad, to never forgive yourself. I reeled in my empty line and cast it out again. Some things are hard to forgive, Emma, even when you want to, even when holding on to the anger hurts you more than them. Have you forgiven her? The question hung in the summer air. A dragonfly buzzed past. The lake lapped gently against the dock posts. No, I said finally, but I've accepted what happened. And that's different, but it's something. Emma nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Kids who grow up in broken families learn early that life isn't neat or fair or easily resolved. September brought the 2-year anniversary. I marked it quietly, alone, with a glass of wine on the porch at sunset. 2 years since that Thanksgiving question. 2 years since my world collapsed and rebuilt itself into something I still didn't fully recognize. I thought about the woman I'd been then, exhausted, lonely, working herself to death, and thinking that was just life. I thought about the woman I was now, comfortable, secure, Still figuring out what happiness meant, but at least no longer surviving minute to minute. Had Vanessa's theft destroyed my life or saved it? The thought was unwelcome, almost blasphemous. But I couldn't shake it. If she hadn't stolen from me, I'd still be scrubbing floors at 3 a.m., still skipping medications, still living in that tiny apartment thinking my son had forgotten me. The theft had forced everything into the light, forced Ryan and me to rebuild, forced me to accept help, to set boundaries, to claim space in the world instead of just surviving in the corners. I hated that. Hated that something so wrong had led to something better. It made the anger complicated, made the blame muddy. Life, I was learning, was rarely as simple as villains and victims. The final monthly meeting came in November, 3 years after it all began. Vanessa arrived right on time, as she had every month for 3 years. But this time, she brought someone with her. "This is Dr. Chen," Vanessa said, "my therapist. I asked if she'd be willing to come today to help me say what I need to say. Is that okay?" I looked at the older woman, kind eyes, calm demeanor. "I guess." We sat at the kitchen table, now worn smooth by 3 years of these uncomfortable conversations. "Evelyn, I've been working with Vanessa for 2 years now," Dr. Chen began. "She's given me permission to share some things with you. She's been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, stemming partly from the guilt of what she did to you. She's made significant progress, but she still struggles with self-forgiveness." "That's her problem to solve," I said. "Not mine." "I agree. But I wanted you to understand the work she's been doing, the genuine changes she's made. Not to excuse what she did, but to show you that people can grow from their worst moments." I looked at Vanessa. She looked back, steady this time. Not crying, not falling apart, just present. "I don't need forgiveness, Evelyn," Vanessa said, quietly. "I finally accepted that. What I need is to tell you that you changed my life. Not by taking me to court or sending me to prison, but by making me face you every month. By making me see what I'd done, over and over, until I couldn't lie to myself anymore." That was the point. I know. And it worked. I'm not the person I was 3 years ago. I'll never be that person again, because you didn't let me hide from what I did. She took a breath. "So thank you for holding me accountable, for giving me a chance to change, and for showing Emma that consequences can be about growth, not just punishment." "I didn't do it for noble reasons," I said. "I did it because I was angry." "I know, but anger can be righteous. Yours was." She stood. "This is our last meeting, 5 years like you demanded. I kept my promise. And now I'm asking if you'll release me. Not forgive me, just release me. Let us both move forward." I looked at this woman who'd stolen my life, and, in the strangest way, given me a different one, who'd broken my family, and in the breaking, forced us to rebuild it stronger. "You're released," I said. "We're done." She nodded, eyes wet, but not falling apart. "Thank you." After they left, I sat alone at the table for a long time. The house was quiet, except for the lake sounds I'd finally learned to love. Ryan called that evening. "How was it? The last meeting?" "Fine. She brought her therapist, said her piece. It's over now." "How do you feel?" "Honestly, relieved, and also kind of sad, which makes no sense because I hated those meetings." "No, you didn't," Ryan said gently. "You needed them, same as she did, but now you don't anymore. And that's growth, Mom." "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher." After we hung up, I walked through the house turning on lights. My house, not stolen property anymore, not compensation for what was taken, just mine. A place I'd lived in for 3 years, filled with memories I'd actually made. In the spare bedroom turned studio, I looked at the paintings I'd been working on. Nothing fancy, just lake scenes and sunrises and the view from my dock. But they were mine, created by hands that used to scrub floors and now made art. I thought about the woman I'd been 5 years ago. The janitor working night shifts, skipping medications, thinking she'd been forgotten by the son she'd sacrificed everything for. That woman was gone. Stolen by betrayal and rebuilt by consequences. And in her place stood someone I was still getting to know. Someone stronger, more certain, less apologetic about taking up space in the world. Someone who'd learned that justice wasn't always simple, that people contained multitudes, that anger and mercy could coexist, That surviving something terrible didn't make you a hero. It just made you someone who survived. I picked up my phone and texted Ryan, "Come for Thanksgiving? I'm making dinner." His response was immediate. "Wouldn't miss it. Sarah too?" "Sarah too. And invite Emma and Tom if they want. The more the messier." Because that's what I'd learned after everything. Family wasn't neat. Love wasn't simple. Forgiveness wasn't required for moving forward. But gathering people around a table, feeding them, making space for their complicated, broken, beautiful selves, that was something worth doing. That Thanksgiving, my house filled with voices and laughter and the kind of chaos that comes from mixing people who have history and hurt and hope all tangled together. Ryan and Sarah brought wine, Tom brought Emma and a pie. Even Vanessa stopped by briefly, dropping off flowers with a card that said simply, "Thank you." I didn't invite her to stay. We weren't there yet. Maybe we never would be. But I accepted the flowers, put them in water, made space for the gesture even if I couldn't make space for her at my table. After everyone left and I was alone with the dishes and the leftovers and the quiet that felt full instead of empty, I stood on my porch one last time. The lake was dark now, reflecting stars instead of sunlight. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was living her life, working, parenting, trying to be better than her worst choice. Emma was growing up with a mother who'd made terrible mistakes, but was facing them honestly. Ryan was learning to love again, carefully but genuinely. And I was here, in a house I'd never asked for but had learned to call home, with a life I'd never expected but had grown to fit. Not perfect, not healed completely, but whole enough. And that, I'd learned, was all any of us could really ask for. The water lapped against the shore. The stars wheeled overhead, and somewhere inside me, in a place I'd thought Vanessa had destroyed forever, something that felt almost like forgiveness stirred. Not for her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But for myself. For the choices I'd made. For the mercy I'd shown. For the boundaries I'd set, and the grace I'd offered in careful, measured doses. For surviving betrayal and coming out the other side, not bitter, but careful. Not broken, but changed. Not the same woman I'd been, but maybe, finally, someone I was proud to be. I went inside, locked the door, turned off the lights, and in the darkness of my bedroom, looking out at the lake that had once been stolen from me and was now, irrevocably, mine, I slept the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who'd fought for justice and found something better than revenge. I'd found peace, and that, in the end, was the only victory that really mattered.